Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 146. We are officially in September. I know I mentioned in my last podcast that my kids actually started school last week, which I thought was crazy, and they agree. But by now, I'm assuming everyone has more or less started school. I think a couple schools actually start next week, some of the private schools in the area. But I know New York City public schools, I believe they started today. And, a lot of schools actually started right after Labor Day. Amazingly, here in New York, the Tuesday after Labor Day, it actually was like very cool in the morning. It felt like fall was in the air. So the school year has officially begun. The last third of 2024 has also officially begun. Hope you're well on your way to crushing whatever your goals may be, and it's been a productive year. But if there's still some room for a little more crushing, you still got a third of the year to get there. So this is gonna be I'm gonna start with another story time type podcast and kind of tie it into what I've been thinking about a lot this week, and just as a sort of thesis statement, I guess, for this podcast. We're talking a bit about commitment and what it means to be committed to something, and what actually the parts of commitment that are important and why commitment is important. So take it back. So several months ago, it must have been like 2 or 3 months ago, we had an amazing team here, and one of my team members was actually going on to PA school. She started PA school a couple of weeks ago. So she let us know, well in advance, hey, this is going to be my last day, just because, I'm starting PA school. She had a little bit of vacation, et cetera, planned. So we knew that this person was going to this amazing person was going to need to be replaced with somebody, to keep, our team fully staffed. So one of our patients actually had reached out to me. I think her plan was that she wanted to go to nursing school, or she was in nursing school, or applying to nursing school, or something like that. And, several months ago, she reached out to someone in my staff and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. I'd like to get some, clinical experience. And, I didn't really have much interaction. I think she was seeing my PA here. But, we were looking for somebody. Timing was right. Seemed like someone that was motivated going to healthcare. And, we tried to have a little bit of overlap. So we hired this new person, maybe like a month and a half, 2 months before our existing team member was getting ready to go, just so she could get trained up to speed, get a phlebotomy certificate, all the things that are required to, be a team member that contributes to the practice, and, someone that would add value to what we do here. So fast forward, the first couple of weeks, everything seemed fine. My interaction with this particular individual was pretty minimal. I'm only in my Long Island office a few hours a week seeing patients, but she works very closely with me, my PA here. And, initial reports were like everything seems okay. But then when my employee who was departing, she took some time off for vacation, and it was maybe 6 weeks into this new employee's run, and it was time to actually start assuming responsibility and contributing to the team, not just shadowing and learning, but okay, now it's time for me to dive in and help, because that's going to be your new role now that the existing person is kind of moving on to their next phase. And as soon as that happened, this person started becoming a little bit flaky, calling out, leaving in the middle of the day unannounced and coming back, just taking tremendous amounts of time off, particularly when we were relying on this person, we were short staffed, and finally things just it didn't end great. Our general assumption was that this person really didn't need to work, and didn't really have a commitment to the job that she had asked for, and now obviously we're looking for a replacement. So if you're in the Long Island area looking for a job as a medical assistant, and you have a great attitude and like working with a strong team, and are a team player, hit us up. We are looking for folks. But the way this all kind of played out, this person who's no longer part of my team, made up some kind of what I assume is a wild story, and just the way social media is these days, and the younger members of my team are very adept at these sorts of things, and we're able to kind of figure out that the story that was told to us why this person could work actually didn't correlate with what was being seen on Instagram, which was partying in Mykonos and all over the Greek islands, etc. Meanwhile, we were back here kind of scrambling because we were relying on this person to help us out, as our prior team member has already gone on to PA school, and we're kind of stuck. And, one of the things that she said in a text exchange with my ops manager was essentially like, I don't really need to work because I'm, well off, something along those lines. And it kind of had me thinking about like commitment, right? So, in that context, in the context of what I observed, in the brief time that this person was part of my team, one is I got the sense actually, before I realized all of this stuff that, I didn't have like a great vibe about the team mentality. And my assumption was that this was likely an individual that, never had a job before, was never like relied upon to, really just relied upon for for an office or a job or whatever her former place of employment, which I don't think existed, for things to progress as they should. Like when we have a very small team, everyone has a big role, and that's how we get the job done, and that's why we're the best dermatology office in New York City, and I think the world. But I have an amazing team. I can't do it myself. I have an awesome group of folks that I work alongside, and everyone's role on my team is critical. And of course, folks go on vacation and stuff. But what we do is as long as we have enough notice, we kind of shuffle the team around just to make sure that patient care never gets compromised, because that's ultimately the most important goal for what we do. So I got a sense that, this person probably never had a job before. It was never really, or maybe had a job, was not really a critical member of the team, like not really relied upon. Whereas, every member of my team is critical. We need everybody. We need everyone to, bring their A game just so that we can continue to be the best. And then I started thinking a little bit more. I was like, this person probably was never even part of like a sports team or, any team where your contribution to the team is important. And I remember like years ago, one of my trainers who was like the manager at a gym in our area called Equinox, and he was responsible for hiring folks. And he said one of the things he always looked for on a resume was participation in a sports team, because that generally aligned with a team mentality, like being a team player, showing up to work. People are relying on you. You don't want to let people down. You make a commitment to that team, and you want to do everything you can to fulfill the commitment you made to that team, because you are relied upon, an important member of the team. So this is something that I actually talk a lot about with my kids who are like very involved with sports and other things as well. Like, if you make a commitment, the commitment is twofold. You're making a commitment to the team or the job or whatever it is that you're committing to, and those folks are relying on you to contribute to that team, because everyone is the collective force. It's our collective work that gets the job done, and everyone's role, as I mentioned, is very, very important. But the second part of this is when you're making a commitment, you're also making a commitment to yourself. You're saying, hey, I'm committing to do this for this team. It's a responsibility that you have to, you have to hold yourself to a high standard, and it's a standard that is, that you made a commitment and you're going to fulfill this commitment. Now, that doesn't mean that, say like this person took the job and kind of realized that, hey, this might not be the best fit for me. I get it, but say, do the right thing. For instance, I hired someone from my New York City office who's currently working somewhere else, and, we could use her literally yesterday. But she said, hey, my boss asked me if I could stay on for another week or so because, there's some transition going on here, and they're really relying on me. And, I love that. I thought that was great. She's not going to leave her old job behind dry. She's like, hey, yeah, I got your back. I made a commitment to you. I'm part of your team. I'm joining a new team, but I'm not going to leave you guys in the lurch. I'm going to make sure I fulfill my commitment to you guys, because I'm a committed person and I made a commitment to myself to do a good job. And then, once you guys get sorted, I'll go to the next job and join the next team. And, that to me is a team player mindset. You're not going to leave your old team high and dry, even if you're joining a new team. You give adequate notice. And, that would have been, I think a nice thing for this particular individual to do, is say, hey, you know what? This isn't really what I thought I was getting into. The demands of the job are just like, too much for me at this moment. I'm going to give you guys a couple of weeks to try to find somebody to replace me, but, I can no longer do this. Totally fine. What I tell my kids is, if they're part of like a team and they're not like, they don't love the team, or as my kids would say, the team is quote unquote trash, or they don't want to be participating in the games or go to practice, I say, hey, you made a commitment to this team. The team is relying on you. The coach is depending on you. So you got to finish out the season. You got to do, fulfill whatever commitment you made, both to the team and to yourself. And at the end of the season, you can say, hey, you know what? I don't want to sign up for the following season or play the next year. Fine. But when you make a commitment, you got to follow it through. That's very, very important, because the commitment is twofold. Commitment is one that's made to the individuals of the team that you're joining, whether it be employment or sports team, whatever it may be. But a big part of that commitment is the commitment that you're making to yourself. Like you're saying, hey, I'm joining this team and I want to do the best job possible because that's who I am. And that's very important for all of us to do. I always say, you got to bring your A game. You have to fulfill your potential, and that's just all part of the process. So with that, those are my thoughts on commitment. I hope you all have a wonderful, restful weekend and just ready to crush the week ahead. For all you kiddos who started a new school year, let's get it. Let's crush this year. And, recharging on the weekends is a big part of it. But make sure you get your work done too. Let's get it.